Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. There's a new report out there that the Pittsburgh Steelers have made a call to the San Francisco 49ers trying to pursue Jauan Jennings in a trade before the start of the 2025 season. And then make sure you guys stick around to the end of today's show where I'm going to explain how the Pittsburgh Steelers actually saved money with the Jaylen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith trade that went down just a couple of weeks ago. But before we get into the content today, guys, click that subscribe button for free in-depth Steelers coverage all throughout the 2025 NFL season. We have a free video, at least one, every single day on this channel. We go live at least twice a week during the offseason and 3 times during the week during the regular season. Of course, we go live for every single Steelers game, so we are the most interactive Steelers fan community anywhere on YouTube. So go ahead and click that subscribe button right now if you want daily coverage on the black and gold. All right, so let's start here with Jauan Jennings, where a new report claims that the Pittsburgh Steelers and Steelers GM Omar Khan have called the San Francisco 49ers regarding a potential trade for Jauan Jennings. Earlier this week, Adam Schefter reported that Jennings is currently looking for either an extension or a trade away from the San Francisco 49ers after having nearly a 1,000-yard season in San Fran last year. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't sound like San Francisco is too interested in letting go of Jennings, and everything coming out of San Francisco right now is that the 49ers, especially with Brandon Ayuk slated to not be ready for the start of the 2025 NFL season, they want to keep Jennings in the building, and they're looking to get a deal done with him, and they're not interested in trading him. This comes from the account 49ers and NFL News 24/7 on X. They have a lot of good information on the 49ers, and they say, source, the Pittsburgh Steelers have reached out to the San Francisco 49ers regarding a trade for wide receiver Jauan Jennings. The Niners have informed Pittsburgh and other interested teams that Jennings is not available. And then along with this report, Andrew Filipponi tweeted this out yesterday saying that he has a Steelers source that says, quote, he's got a lot of Hines Ward in him, and he says no clue if they'll trade for him, but he has big fans in that front office and coaching staff. And guys, this is exactly what I told you guys just a couple of days ago when this report came out. I told you the Steelers were going to be interested in him because of the fact that he's arguably the best run-blocking wide receiver in the National Football League. He's got a big body. He's got really great hands. He's a phenomenal route runner. And he really showed himself to be a really good receiver for the San Francisco 49ers last year. So I told you guys the Steelers would be interested in him, but I also said that the 49ers would probably not be interested in letting him go. So our coverage a couple of days ago, it looks like it was spot on there. However, I wouldn't completely rule out a Jennings trade. Like if he's asking for $20 million or more per season, there's certainly an argument to be made that the 49ers would not be willing to pay that and would be willing to trade him elsewhere if that is the price tag for Jauan Jennings and that is the price that he is looking for. And with the Steelers, they got plenty of cap space, not only for this season, but they're going to have cap space in future seasons as well. If they want to trade and pay Jauan Jennings, they can certainly do that. So I wouldn't completely rule out a trade because it does seem like the Steelers are really interested in Jennings. And it also sounds like here that even if it's not Jennings, guys, the Pittsburgh Steelers are still very open to adding another wide receiver if they feel like it is an upgrade to the wide receiver room. Now, I do think that there are two conditions for the Pittsburgh Steelers if they're going to make a trade for a wide receiver before the start of the season. Number one, they have to feel like that receiver is a true upgrade in this offense over Calvin Austin III. Then the second thing is, guys, Omar Khan, as we know, likes to have his price, and he's not going to budge off his price. So if they can get a receiver they feel like is an upgrade over Calvin Austin III, and if they feel like they're not overpaying for that wide receiver, it is still possible, maybe unlikely, but still possible that the Pittsburgh Steelers could make a trade for a receiver before the start of the season. Some other names to keep your eye out for on the trade market. I know that they have made calls to the Green Bay Packers regarding Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks. It seems like the Packers are going to stand pat with their wide receiver room heading into the season, but I think both of those guys are good trade deadline trade targets. And Trey Palmer, Steelers also called about his availability. And then a couple of other guys to keep your eye on. Adam Thielen, that Carolina wide receiver room has a lot of good young talent in it, and Thielen is getting older on a team that's not really ready to win now. Plus, the Steelers are very interested in Thielen at the trade deadline last year. And then John Mechie, somebody that's a good route runner, a good run blocker for his size, would be a good fit with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he wouldn't cost you all that much, maybe a late day 3 draft pick. So those are some more names for you guys to keep your eye out for, along with Jauan Jennings. But honestly, guys, I think Pittsburgh probably sticks with Calvin Austin III as their wide receiver 2, at least to start this season. You take a look at the wide receiver room right now. DK Metcalf is obviously your every down number 1 wide receiver. This is an offense, especially on early downs, which is going to pretty much have Jonnu Smith as their number 2 receiver in those 13 personnel packages with 3 tight ends on the field. But when they want to go to those 12 and even 11 personnel packages with 2 and 3 receivers on the field, Calvin, in my opinion, is going to be one of the more slept-on wide receivers, period, in the National Football League heading into the year. I compare his skill set to Darnell Mooney, and we've talked about how I think that Calvin could have a breakout season like Mooney had in Atlanta last year because of his ability to threaten to all levels of the field. He's a yak threat with his speed and vision. He's an intermediate threat with the way that he runs routes, and he's obviously a vertical threat with his long speed, being able to take the top off the defense, as well as his ball tracking ability down the field. So I think he's a really good receiving threat, guys, and I think the Steelers really believe in him, and I think they're going to go into the year with him as their wide receiver too. And then when it comes to adding another wide receiver, let's say Calvin Austin doesn't work out. Let's say Roman Wilson doesn't take another step this year and they're looking for a legit number 2 receiver at the deadline. That's when I think they might make some calls to teams like Carolina, teams like Green Bay, some of these teams with wide receivers that I think would be good fits in this offense. Guys like Romeo Doubs, Adam Thielen, those guys could absolutely still be available via trade at the trade deadline. But I think for right now, they're going to see how Calvin Austin III does. So predict it for me down there in the comment section. Will the Steelers add a legit wide receiver 2 before the start of the season? Simply give me a yes or a no down there in the comments section. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Mando. Well, I'm telling you about Mando today. Give me a yes or a no for today's pin question. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Mando Whole Body Deodorant. Guys, do you ever step outside and feel like you're completely drenched in sweat from the second you walk outside? It's definitely getting hot out there, and it definitely gets hot out there in Latrobe at Steelers training camp. And this year, I'm trusting Mando Whole Body Deodorant to keep me fresh no matter how hot it gets this summer. If you've been struggling with the heat and humidity like I have great news. Mando has just launched something that takes sweat control to the next level. Introducing the Mando Deodorant Plus Sweat Control Solid Stick. It's double protection. Finally, you get the odor control you love with Mando plus powerful sweat control. Don't wait. Grab yours now at shopmando.com and experience the double protection of Mando Deodorant Plus Sweat Control. Guys, I use Mando Deodorant every single day, and to prove it to you guys, I actually brought my stick from home to show you guys that I really do trust Mando as a brand and as a product. I also use their body wash in the shower every single day, and my favorite scent personally is the bourbon leather scent, but they got a bunch of different scents that are absolutely fantastic as well, like Pro Sport, Mount Fuji, and more. And if you guys want to try out Mando today, I highly recommend their starter pack because it comes with a solid stick of deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice. You can choose a mini body wash, which I highly recommend. Plus, you can also get deodorant wipes, which are also highly recommended. Plus, you get free shipping. So as a special offer for our listeners here, new customers get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code. Just use code CHAT at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide, plus free shipping again for new customers. That's shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Mando's got you covered with deodorant plus sweat control. So say goodbye to sweat stains and hello to long-lasting freshness with our friends at Mando today. So today we officially got word on exactly what the contracts look like for both Jaylen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith after that blockbuster trade that Omar Khan pulled off just a couple of weeks ago. And it's absolutely fantastic, guys, in my opinion. And the Steelers actually saved money against the 2025 cap with this move, even though they're adding another player. They added 2 players to their roster. They unloaded one in Minkah Fitzpatrick. But despite adding yet another player to this roster, they actually saved money against the cap. So you guys can see here Jaylen Ramsey's 2025 financial breakdown here. In terms of the cash from the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Steelers will pay him $19.5 million this year. And then the cash from the Miami Dolphins, they're going to pay him $7 million in cash this year. So for a total of around $26.5 million. His total cash earnings is, like I said, $26.5 million. And then the cap hit for the Steelers, because the base salary is at the vet minimum this year, guys. And then that option bonus that's going to be kicking in week 1 is going to be prorated over 4 seasons. His cap hit this year is under $5 million for, I would still say, is a top 10 corner in the National Football League. And you guys can take a look at the remaining cap hits for Jaylen Ramsey over the next 4 seasons that he's under contract here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just a $4.9 million cap hit this year. You got cap hits in the teens the next 2 years. I think that's very manageable. So if you want to keep Ramsey on the team, you absolutely can. And it does balloon a bit in 2028, but you can certainly do some restructures. You can certainly work your way around that as well. Just so you guys know, there's no guaranteed money past that option bonus that he gets this year. So the Steelers can absolutely move on from him if they want to next year. Now, the dead cap hit is relatively sizable next year if they move on from him in 2026, but it's not anything that, like, if Ramsey completely sucks this year, they're going to have the flexibility this year to do what they want to do in terms of Jaylen Ramsey based on how he plays this season. If he plays really well and they want him to have a future with this football team past 2025, they can absolutely keep him around. In fact, they're probably incentivized now because of this option bonus to keep him around. But if they don't and they absolutely have to move on from him, they can save some money by letting him go by the time free agency rolls around next year. So the Steelers have ultimate flexibility in terms of the future of Jaylen Ramsey with this football team. Then we move over to Jonnu Smith's 2025 financials. He got a new deal where it added over $12 million in new money. So his cash earnings this year is going to be $9 million for a cap hit of just over $5.1 million. And then his remaining cap hits, like I said, it's going to be that $5.1 million this year, followed by a $10.8 million cap hit in 2026. By the way, his new contract extension ties him with Pat Freiermuth for the APY, so that is annual earnings with Pat Freiermuth. So that's the 8th highest tight end in the National Football League in terms of annual earnings. Okay, so that's starter money, just so you guys know, and because of that, Jonnu is probably going to get starter level reps alongside Pat Freiermuth. So get ready to see a lot of 12 and 13 personnel here in Pittsburgh next year. Now, another thing to keep in mind with this whole situation is that the Steelers do take on a dead cap hit from dealing away Minkah Fitzpatrick because of the signing bonus on the restructure that they already did on Minkah's contract before trading him away. That dead cap hit is just going to be over $6.8 million. So you kind of combine everything here, guys, and you see the cap hit before the trade. Okay, if they didn't make any moves, all right, if they didn't make this trade for Jaylen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith, they would have paid $22.355 million against the cap for just Minkah Fitzpatrick, somebody with just 1 interception in the last 2 years. But the cap hit after the trade is $16.8 million. All right, so you save almost $5.5 million against the cap this year, and you add a player to your roster and Jonnu Smith on top of it. And on top of all of that, I think Jaylen Ramsey is the best player in this entire deal. So I think it's a fantastic move by the con artist, Omar Khan. I think the Steelers absolutely won this deal. And right now, with this added cap space, the Pittsburgh Steelers currently have a projected 2025 cap space of over $25 million. So that obviously gives them a lot of room to make any potential moves that they still want to make before the start of the season. Maybe even make a big money trade at the trade deadline if they feel like they need to make one. But if they want, they can even save more money against the cap once they get the TJ Watt extension done. I think if the Steelers are smart, maybe they allocate some of those cap resources to this year so the cap hit in future seasons isn't as big for TJ Watt. But if they wanted to, they could lower TJ's almost $30 million cap hit this year if they want to once they get that extension done and create even more cap space for the 2025 season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you might be saying at home, but Jack, why does cap space even matter at this time of the year? It's not like all these big money free agents are still on the free agency market Why would the Steelers want to save money against the cap if that's the case? Well, the NFL has a rollover rule where the Steelers and any NFL team can actually roll over all of their available cap space that they don't use in a given year and roll it over to the next following season, all right? So whatever money the Steelers don't spend against their cap this year, it can roll over to the 2026 season as long as the cash spending for the Steelers exceeds 89% of the salary cap for this season in the NFL. And once TJ Watt's deal gets done, which is going to add at least $10 million, but potentially up to like $20 million in new cash spending, the Steelers are easily going to be over that 89% a salary cap figure there, so the Steelers are going to be good, okay? So the Steelers, they're adding all this great veteran talent, but they're also gearing up for 2026 by really preparing themselves to have a lot of cap space to use in free agency, in trades, all these different things in the 2026 offseason, so I love what Omar Khan is doing. But if Omar wants to go out and make another big move, he absolutely can, right? If they want to go out and trade for a Jauan Jennings and pay him, they can do that. If they want to go out and sign Justin Simmons or Julian Blackmon as a safety, they can do that as well. But if not, and they feel good with where they're at and they don't make any more moves this year, they'll get a ton of cap space for next season on top of the cap already going up as it does every single season in the National Football League. So I love what Omar Khan is doing. This is an absolute genius move by the Steelers GM, in my opinion, and I think it's going to work out great here in the Steel City. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Now that we know all the details with the money and everything else, grade this trade from Steelers GM Omar Khan. Give me an A, a B, a C, a D, or an F. After everything that we have learned about this deal, guys, I am giving this a very easy A grade for me. I think it's one of the best moves that Omar Khan has made as the Steelers GM. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. We'll finish up today's show here with a little bit of NFL 100 news as Patrick Queen has been named the 75th best player in the National Football League. And honestly, I think this might be a little bit rich for Queenie. I like Queenie as a player, but he did have a bit of a down year last year. And I think that the biggest joke of it all, guys, here is that Cam Heyward was ranked 83rd behind Patrick Queen. Cam Heyward was a first-team All-Pro. Obviously, Queen was not. And I think that's pretty clear when you watch the Steelers film that Cam Heyward is the better player compared to Patrick Queen. But I don't want to, poo-poo on Patrick Queen. I think he's a really good player, and I'm happy he's in the top 75 in terms of NFL players this year. But Cam needs to have a better rating, in my opinion, guys. 83rd overall is a disrespectful rating for somebody that's been one of the best defensive tackles in the National Football League for a very long time. And it's not like he's slowing down. He was a first-team All-Pro just last season. So I know that this ranking is based on the NFL players voting and all that different stuff. And sometimes, certain players don't make it as high as others. But I think it's pretty clear when you watch these two players that Cam Heyward needs to be higher than where Patrick Queen was this year. So fill in the blank for me down there in the comments section. Cam Heyward is a top blank player in the NFL right now. I think he's easily a top 50 player in the league, guys. First team All-Pro at a very important position. One of the best run defenders in the league as well. One of the best leaders and one of the best people in the league. He's a former NFL Man of the Year. So I would say he's a top 50 player still. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. And that will conclude today's edition of Steelers News and Rumors. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Tomorrow, Coop and I will be back live for our second Steelers Talk Live show of the week, where we're going to have a bunch of great Steelers content for you guys to enjoy. So click that subscribe button and join us tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern.